Okay, well, here we are now at NRB again, and so honored and excited to be able to share with you my next guest, who is Mark Hancock. And Mark is what are you, Mark? The CEO?
CEO.
The CEO of Trail Life. Now, you guys that are watching, you may not realize how big of a deal this is, but to me, this is exciting because Trail Life is a new organization, relatively speaking, that is growing rapidly all over America, and it's the new Boy Scouts in a way. They may not call it that, but that's how I look at it. And boy, do we need Trail Life in America today. Mark, thank you for coming on Truth and Liberty with me.
Richard, great to be with you.
So I was sharing with you before we started, when I was growing up, I came from a pretty tough home life, and my mom and dad split when I was 9 years old, and our home was a real difficult place to be. And my mom, she knew that what I needed some male leadership in my life, and I needed some place where I could get my character built and that sort of thing. And she put us in Boy Scouts. My twin brother and I both did scouting, and it was such a positive influence on me. The men that led the troop, still to this day, I think of them as great influences on me. And I don't know how much I absorbed, but I know it was a lot. And what happened to Boy Scouts, Mark? It was a few years ago when things started to go south.
What an amazing legacy, and I hear stories like this all the time, of men whose lives were significantly impacted. 115 years have given us, presidents and astronauts and civic leaders and war generals. And about 10 years ago, the Boy Scouts decided that they were going to just kind of change who it is that they were. And the membership didn't want to change, but at a corporate level, they saw where the money was, and they began what somebody would call their kind of march toward wokeness.
Yeah.
And so they gave up a lot of their more traditional values to where just last week, they changed their name to Scouting America. They took boy completely out of the name of the program, kind of as a final slap in the face to boys to say that we don't think there's anything special about you. And it's really tragic. We were a scouting family also, and my son's in Boy Scouts. My oldest is an Eagle Scout. Yep. But then when Trail Life started, we all shifted over to Trail Life. I was there at the beginning, and he got the highest award in Trail Life, which is called the Freedom Award, which is harder to get than the Eagle.
Really?
So he became a Freedom Rangeman is the highest award in Trail Life. But now we've been around about 10 years, 65,000 members in all 50 states, about 1,300 churches have Trail Life USA troops, and a lot of people will say, you said an alternative to the Boy Scouts or the new Boy Scouts, how do we react to that? Well, people say, how are you different? I said, well, when you look at us, you got handbooks and camping and hiking and uniforms, a robust awards program, patrols, outdoor adventure. That's the same. But there are two things that are very different about us. One is we are Christ-centered. Okay. We're unapologetically Christian. We're not just an outdoor organization having a Christian experience. We are at our core a ministry that uses the outdoors to grow boys into godly men. And the second thing that makes us different is we're boy-focused. Okay. We believe that boys and girls are different. That's kind of a radical thing to say in this culture in some places. Right. I think I can say it to you and be okay. But boys and girls are different. Any legitimate science points to differences between boys and girls, psychologically, developmentally, biologically. They're different. Yeah. And so we respect that. So we are focused on boys and focused on giving them good, strong Christian men mentoring. So many moms, like your mom, have written us emails to say thank you so much for Trail Life. I didn't know what to do with my son. A single mom. Put him I wanted him to be surrounded by good and godly men who could show him how to be a good and godly man. Yeah. And they're thanking us for Trail Life. And then, of course, fathers in Trail Life with their sons, finding a new way to relate with them. We have a lot of men in Trail Life who don't even have sons in the program, but they're there because they found this band of brothers, men who share their values and are interested in pouring into the next generation. So it's been quite a thing to watch Trail Life grow from its beginning into what it is now, and how it's checking all those boxes for wonderful ministry to people all over the place.
Wow, that is so exciting. And you were telling me that when your son was young, I guess you and your wife found a Boy Scout troop, and you're like, yeah, honey, this is great, but I can't get involved in leadership. That's too much on my plate right now. But never say never, right? Now you're the CEO of the new Boy Scouts Trail Life. Yeah. So that's pretty exciting.
Well, in 2013, in this building, the Boy Scouts began their downward growth trend when they changed their membership standards. And about every 2 years, they go even further with it. And their latest change was to take the word boy out of their name.
Crazy.
And that, watching it go through each of those iterations over time, 1 month later, after that meeting here, 50 of us gathered in Louisville, Kentucky, and talked about who's going to do something about this.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it was an amazing group of people, and I should not have been in the room. I was not. A lot of former executive scouts, Christian leaders, Christian ministry leaders, Christian media people in that room. We've destroyed the list of those 50 people because we don't want anyone to point to a founder.
Okay.
Because Jesus did this thing.
Oh, wow.
So
there's no Lord Baden-Powell at the top.
No, there's no Lord Baden-Powell. There's a lot of
Lord
influence
Baden-Powell
from him.
founded scouting in
He
England.
did. A lot of influence from him because he had it right. He said scouting is nothing more than applied Christianity.
Did he really?
He did. And I think that he intended for scouting to embrace Christian values. Now, at that time when he started, America was a Christian nation.
Absolutely.
You just assumed if you started a values organization, you were based on the Bible. So we started understanding where they went wrong, and so we secured ourselves in certain ways to ensure that we maintain our focus and on being a Christ-centered organization that serves boys.
Wow,
because that's so important.
That's incredible. I'd love to know more about that. So you were saying that these leaders gathered 1 month later, and the idea for Trail Life came out of that meeting?
Out of that room, they left us 41 left, and left 9 of us as a steering committee, and said, do something with this.
Okay.
And 68 days later, in Nashville, Tennessee, we held an inaugural convention. Had 1,100 men come from 44 states. Governor Mike Huckabee was our keynoter. This is just 68 days later. And then 3 months after that, we launched on January 1st, 2014, which is the day that the Boy Scouts' new policy went into effect. Had 5,000 members in line on our first day, and we've just grown like a weed since then.
Well, that's awesome. So how many, do you call your local things, do you call them troops?
They're troops.
They're troops. And how many troops do you have?
We have over 1,300.
Okay.
In all 50 states.
In all 50 states. That's amazing. How do people find, where's a troop near me, right? Do you have a website?
That's a great question. At traillifeusa.com, 2 L's in the middle, traillifeusa.com, you can go to Get Connected, and there's a map of the United States. You put in your zip code, it'll show you the troops that are nearby. You click on it and connect with them. Hey, can we come by and visit? And then if there's not a troop nearby, then you can click on Start a Troop, and you find out how to bring a troop to your church. We consider ourselves an outreach at a local church. We're not just using their basement. We are a ministry of that local church. And crazy thing, Richard, we tell pastors this all the time. If you're looking for a church growth, community outreach machine, 18% of the adult leaders in Trail Life USA join the church after they join the troop.
Oh, wow.
So they come in thinking, okay, I want my son to be part of this program, and then they discover a local community, because a lot of those folks who are running that troop are from that local church.
Yeah.
And they get connected with them, and they become members of that local church.
Yeah, wow, that's bringing back memories. Yeah, when you said meeting in the basement, that's exactly what we did.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Are your troops exclusively based out of churches?
We have, I would say 99%. We have some exceptions to that. If you have a legal status as a specifically Christian organization with a Christian statement of faith, then we can also charter you. So we have some homeschool co-ops.
Okay.
They're just good, strong homeschool co-ops. I'm saying we want an outdoor adventure element to our homeschool program. About 60% of our members are homeschooled. So there's some homeschool co-ops. Here in Texas, we have a Christian gun club. It's a youth Christian gun club that's chartered a troop. And because they said we want to add to our repertoire, not just hunting and riflery, but we want to add some of the other outdoor skills and adventures, and so they chartered a troop. So we do have some exceptions, but for the most part, we really believe that the church is plan A for growing the kingdom, and so we come alongside those churches and provide them with a way to reach their community. You can invite a boy to Sunday school for forever, particularly a boy who's not of faith. He's not going to show up. His parents aren't going to make a way for that. But you invite him to go hiking or bouldering or whitewater rafting, he shows up, and we see all the time that unchurched boy joins the troop, and then the unchurched family joins that church.
Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful model for growing the kingdom of God.
Wow, that's really terrific. And so tell me more about the program, the Trail Life program.
Yeah.
Is it really similar to Scouts? And so many people now don't even remember what Scouting was like. It's how fast that memory fades. But there's ranks, probably achievement awards or badges, and how does all that work?
All of that, and we had a chance. We had a lot of former Scouting executives who joined us and helped us to structure and build our program. And we had a chance to take a look at a 100-year-old organization and say, what if we had a chance to start over again, and we weren't stuck with these things that were part of our tradition that we just couldn't get rid of. And so we built a program, so it starts at kindergarten, or 5 years old, and it goes up through 17 years of high school, and it's in one troop. So that's the difference. In Boy Scouts, you're in Cub Scouts, and then at some point you got to go.
Yeah, there's an age break there.
You got to go find another program.
Yeah.
It meets on a different night, different group of boys, different church, different personality, everything. But in Trail Life, you start at kindergarten, and it's under one charter.
Okay.
Now they break up into segments because a boy in a high school age needs a different sort of environment than a boy in kindergarten.
Okay.
So they'll meet together on one night, but then they'll split into what we call our Woodlands Trail, which is kindergarten through 5th grade. And then we have our navigators for 6th through 8th grade, and then our adventurers is the high school age.
Oh, I got you.
But the wild thing, Richard, and this is the beautiful part of it, is those adventurers, those high school boys, are going back and they're teaching those younger boys the skills.
Yeah.
Which puts them in a leadership role. When does a high school kid really get to step into a leadership role, particularly of little 5 and 6 year old boys?
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So there's a great leadership opportunity for the older boys, and the younger boys. I mean, they look up to those guys.
Sure.
So they're mentors, they're examples, their desires. I want to be like that freedom rangeman.
Yeah.
It was our highest award, who taught me how to tie a knot or set up a tent or purify water or whatever outdoor skills.
Right.
Of course, all these values badges too. So generally, they'll gather on a night and begin together with opening ceremonies, oaths, prayer, announcements, and then they break up into 3 units, and they'll do their badge work and their skills work, and it's set by age, and it's a robust awards program. It's not a participation trophy thing. You got to earn it.
All right.
That's important to boys.
It is important.
If you're going to give me something, it's not going to have any value unless I work for it. And then we reserve summer camp time during the summer. It's not for earning badges, but it's for exercising those skills that they learn throughout the year.
Okay.
Because I remember in Boy Scouts we would go to summer camp, and we'd be at this beautiful property with a lake and sailboats, and I'm sitting at a picnic table with my sons as a 15-year-old is teaching them about traffic safety. Because we want to try to get as many badges as we can.
Yeah.
No, the idea
Badgerama.
our summer adventures, hey, this is fun. Yeah, and we call them summer adventures. So it's on summer camp.
Right.
And so it's a little bit structured different that way because we saw, you're in the great outdoors. That's not the time to gather your badges. It's the time to take what you've learned and show those things. But like I said, it's unapologetically Christian, so the values are throughout the entire program. We call it like carrot and carrot cake. If you like carrot cake like I do, you don't get big hunks of carrot, but you get carrot in every bite. And that's how Christ is infused throughout our program. Every badge has some references, but it doesn't feel like Sunday school in the outdoors. But you can't miss the fragrance, the presence of Christ throughout the whole program.
So scouting, it was one of the elements of the scout law was reverence, and then in the scout oath it was duty to God and country. In scouting it wasn't explicitly Christian because there were programs for Jewish kids, and I think they even eventually added something for Muslims and whatever. But Trail Life is expressly Christian, and that's from my perspective that's great. So tell me about your growth rate. How are you still on fire here, or are things slowing down?
Yeah,
or what?
We're still on fire. But let me clarify that Christian piece because this is important. All of our adults sign a statement of faith and agree to a statement of values that talks about things like the definition of marriage, what a man and a woman is. And so they all agree to adhere to that and live by that. But boys of any faith or no faith at all are welcome to join.
I see.
So
leadership is one thing.
Leadership is one thing, boys, because we'd love to have those boys in there. And we have a lot of families that are not believing families that say, we want a program that shares our values.
Yeah.
And they'll put their son in the program, and of course he's surrounded by these Christian families. And the dad, even though he can't be a member because he can't sign the statement of faith, they're welcome to attend.
Right.
But they don't have a leader status. they're welcome to attend, and we see a lot of those men come to Christ.
Okay.
It's powerful, yeah. We'll get emails from wives who say, for years I've been begging my husband, come to church with me, come to church with me. He won't go to church. But we put our son in Trail Life, and he went to the Trail Life meeting.
Right.
And then he started hanging around these guys.
Yeah.
And now he's become a believer.
Yeah, that's terrific.
So through the traditional ways, she couldn't get him into a church building, but she'd get him around a campfire.
And he starts smelling that aroma of Christ, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And I love that you guys are keeping and the outdoor focus and, the outdoor skills and all that kind of thing, the camping, the fishing, the all hiking and all of that. I'm assuming like do you do high adventure stuff, for example?
We absolutely do. Yeah, we've had troops do amazing things to Iceland and Boundary Waters things. And last July, I did a 105-mile paddle down the Missouri River through Montana with a number. I was a leader on that trip. I got invited to be on that trip as a leader with boys and to see them mature over that 105-mile paddle experience. It was beautiful.
Oh, wow.
We're doing stuff like that all the time in our troops. They're always out, very active. We're talking about being character, leadership, and adventures being our focuses. The boys come for the adventure, but the parents are there because of the character and leadership opportunities that their sons get. It's making a difference.
That's exciting. Have you acquired any camps, national camps, local camps, anything like that?
We've turned down probably a dozen. And when we got to look at where the Boy Scouts went wrong, owning camp properties is an expensive.
Yes, a lot of maintenance costs.
Yeah, it is. And there's a life cycle to a camp. Somebody unloads a worn down camp and somebody buys it and puts a bunch of money into it, and then over the years everybody's been to it already and it starts to run down, and then they sell it off to somebody else.
Right.
So we saw that and how much money they needed to run that organization. And so we figured we got national parks, state parks, all these beautiful things, and our troops have never looked back. In fact, the ones that asked at the beginning, you don't have camps, where do we camp? It took them a while, but then it's like, oh my gosh, when we were a Boy Scout troop, we went to the same place every year. Now every year, we're going to Yellowstone, we're going to Yosemite, we're going
wonderful.
and we never did those things in the past.
Yeah.
So they're taking advantage of those things. Now we did accept one property. Our home office is on a 127-acre complex south of Greenville, South Carolina. But we accepted that because it had the administrative facility.
Yeah.
And so that's our home office.
Yeah.
But we also have 127 acres of streams and campsites. We don't do any programming there, but troops can come in and camp anytime they want to, and they'll just call us and say, hey, we're on our way, and we say, great, and we point them out to the woods, and they find their campsite and their firewood and their fire ring and all that, and they'll have a great time out there. But we're not heavy on program. We're teaching the troops really to do that kind of stuff themselves, and they love it because where in the past they would go somewhere that kept them busy all day. You get up at 6 in the morning and they're running all day. Boys are learning how to re-engage with the outdoors. And how to pick up a stick and have a sword fight.
Yeah, put down the controller in the video game and touch something that's real.
Yeah, because they're programmed to death. Their parents drive them to this, drive them to that, drive them to this, drive them to that. And so they come to our camp for a weekend and it's like, no, this is the outdoors.
Yeah.
Get a fishing pole.
Yeah.
We have so many boys that caught their first fish on our campus, and they've gone out and just really gotten bored. In the outdoors and just make their own fun. And that's just beautiful. Now we have a full gymnasium and other stuff on campus. We have a museum there, wildlife museum. But for the most part, those troops are enjoying coming out, and those leaders are saying, boys, let's just hike and stop and see. Let's slow things down. Put the phones away. Let's slow things down and see what it used to be like when you and I would go out and wander off into the woods and find our own fun.
Wow.
And they're loving it.
Yeah, that is so great. Well, so the Boy Scouts, you said you looked at what went wrong. I remember that leading up to 2013, probably for 6 to 10 years maybe, the Boy Scouts were under pressure in different states as some of the more blue or as liberal states in America were bringing pressure on them to allow homosexuals into leadership. And things, we call it SOGI, sexual orientation, gender identity laws. They were trying to come after the Scouts with these laws, saying you can't discriminate in leadership. And the Scouts tried, it seemed like they tried to hold their ground and were doing okay, but then it was sudden and they capitulated. And I said, okay, open homosexuals can be leaders. And that really was the beginning of a great decline, and now the Boy Scouts, before we went on, you said they were at 7 million, and now they're under 1 million in terms of membership.
Yeah.
Why is that so critical? Why was that sort of like the open door that allowed the decline?
Well, it's really interesting because people believe that they were forced to make those changes, but they had a Supreme Court decision in their favor that said that they could keep their membership standards, or they have a charter from Congress that allowed them to keep their standards what they were. But they bowed to the corporate money, and so they did it voluntarily.
It was corporate donations that were being put on the line?
This is interesting. In 2013, in January, they had their troops vote. They said, are you interested in changing the membership standards? They started with open and avowed homosexual boys. And the troops overwhelmingly, members said, no. We wouldn't even know how to deal with it, even on a logistics basis. What do you do? Certainly there were homosexuals in the organization, but you weren't required to accommodate that. What tent do you put that boy in? And so the troops said no, and they backed off and said, well, we want to think about this and have a conversation about it. And that's when they gathered 1,300 delegates together in May in this building. But they were hand-picked delegates who voted against what the members said and changed that membership standard. So that was the first change, was open about homosexual youth. And they knew that eventually those young boys would become adults. So you got an Eagle Scout who's open about homosexual. Now he turns 18 and
becomes an assistant scoutmaster.
You got to kick him out, because they didn't apply to adults at first. But 2 years later, that open about homosexual applied to the adults.
Okay.
And then a couple years later, it was transgender. And then a couple years later, as soon as you have transgender, it's girls.
It's girls, yeah.
And so I think it was 2018 when they made a decision about girls. And honestly, that decision drove more people to us than any of the prior decisions. Because even people who were okay with a more liberal, progressive approach to things said, I don't want girls in there with my son. That doesn't make sense. But the rest was okay.
Well, we can't pretend anymore at that point.
No, you can't pretend.
Right? It's like, what is this? This is not Boy Scouts anymore.
Yeah.
Well, why is it important that it be kept to boys?
Oh my gosh. Now there's a question. Boys and girls are different.
Yeah.
Every legitimate science points to that. And boys are developmentally, they're behind girls in certain areas. It's how their brain develops, how their eyes, their ears, everything develops. This is science. And they're put in these situations, sit still, be quiet, pay attention, like in classroom. And now they're twice as likely to have ADHD, to be in special education, 3 times more likely to have ADHD. They have fallen behind girls in every single academic category because we thought we can treat them the same as girls.
Yeah.
But they're not. Boys are not some sort of defective girl. Boys are their own wonderful, marvelous thing that we can account for. Yeah. And if we raise them properly, they will be the ones who storm the beaches of Normandy to free the world of tyranny, or get on top of a rocket ship and go to another planet, or cross an uncharted ocean.
Yeah.
Because they're drawn to risk and competition.
Yeah.
And in a culture that sees masculinity as toxic, they're forgetting who it is that they are.
Yeah.
And they're subtly shamed at every turn. Why can't you sit still like Susie? So now they're in Boy Scout troop or scouting troops with girls, and the leaders, it was tragic. They interviewed a leader that said, how do you like having girls in your Boy Scout troop? And I've heard 2 of them respond this way. They said, we love having them there. They're so much smarter and better behaved. And I thought, they're right.
Okay.
They're right. That's absolutely true. But here's another place that used to have the name boy in the program, where boys are being said, why can't you sit still? Why can't you keep up with the girls? Why can't you get your badges as fast as they do?
Yeah.
And it just, now boys catch up eventually, but if we're not careful, by that time they've already given up. The classroom is already not a place that they fit in.
Yeah.
That troop is already not a place, so they leave before they have a chance to catch up.
Yeah.
Developmentally, as they move into teens, they actually start to excel intellectually. In a lot of cases, they pass girls in terms of intellect, but it takes them a while to get there.
Yeah.
And so Trail Life keeps them engaged and says, hey, we believe in you, we care about you, we understand you're a little bit wild, Boys do not believe there's a tree that should not be climbed, and
That's right, or a rock that should not be thrown.
Exactly.
Right?
So when you understand that, it's a different environment for boys. They stay engaged until we can build them into godly men.
Yeah, well, I've got a booklet. I want you to take one with you if you would, but it's called The Calling to Manhood.
Love it.
And the whole idea of it is that God has created us male and female, and I'm sorry to alarm you guys, but we're not the same. Men are different than women, and women are different than men, and they're both valuable,
Absolutely.
both important, both have their unique
It's not a value
aspects.
statement.
No, it's not. In a sense, it's not. In another sense, it is, in that because we're different, we have unique purpose.
Unique values. And
Right, but different
Absolutely.
purpose.
Absolutely.
And this whole idea of toxic masculinity is really a lie.
Yeah.
And men are called to lead. They're called to work, and they're also called to fight.
Yeah.
And there are godly times when all three of those things are needed. And you're right. You put a young boy who's got testosterone already flowing through his brain and his veins and everything else, and he wants to run and play and wrestle, throw things, build things, break things, set fires, controlled, instinctively, don't we all know that we're not the same? We know that men and women are different, and we're in America today. We've got this massive identity crisis, where all these people called trans, and the problem is they don't understand their gender identity.
It's no wonder.
And then they say, oh, well, let's affirm them in their gender. No, affirm them in what they think their gender, what they hope their gender is. It's a massive state of confusion.
It really is.
And so I'm so thankful that you guys have responded to the calling and the truth to stand up and say, no, boys need this, and we're gonna keep this going.
Imagine being a boy when a Supreme Court justice nominee can't tell you what a woman is. Imagine a 10-year-old boy understanding what it means to be a man.
Yeah.
That's why we surround them with these godly men, and they get to see that's what a man looks like.
Yeah, absolutely, and we need that, don't we?
We really do.
We could go on all day about that, but Mark, thank you so much for joining me here and sharing a little bit about this exciting organization.
Thank you, it's been my pleasure.
Yeah, and again, what's the website people go to?
TrailLifeUSA.com, 2 L's in the middle, TrailLifeUSA.com.
2 L's, TrailLifeUSA.com, and we'll be praying for you all and wishing the best of success and everything, and if we can ever do anything to help you, let us know.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks so much.
God bless.